Do you want me to start here? Or do you want to start?
I will start. It takes a minute for people to come in, so we just give them a second to come in.
Okay, I don't see them anyplace listed anyplace, so there are 10 right there. Okay, I see them.
And more people tend to come in,
Okay,
but I'll do my introduction now. So welcome to View. We're happy to have Sandy Gellis here talking with us tonight. I'm Kelsey Lynn Mayo. I'm the exhibition manager, fairly new to the role, and I'm happy to be bringing these virtual artist talks to you far and wide, and some here in Old Forge. So we have Sandy showing here in Eco. It is a wonderful show. We hope you can all come in person and see it. Sandy is a wonderful conceptual artist that is based out of New York City, and a lot of her work has to do with the theme of water, which goes alongside the exhibition that she was the juror of, and which is called Ripple and Roar, The Wonder of Water. And I'm very happy to have you here, Sandy. If you want to get started, I'd be happy for you to start.
okay, my pleasure. Well, we're starting in the hallway when we pull back, and the hallway has two shelves that are two bodies of water. The right-hand side is the Hudson River, and the left-hand side are the waterways up in Old Forge. And so, but I don't see it on the screen here. It's Travis, there we go. Okay, so this side that you're seeing right now is taken from lakes around Old Forge, and they're sediment mixing sediment drawings that are starting to grow. And Kelsey's been watering them in their little jars. And I'm sure they look like they've changed a lot since the very beginning. They were kind of bare at the beginning. So this covers Old Forge Pond, Gray Lake, Twin Pond, Little Moose Outlet, Moose River Runoff, Bisbee Bridge. And I think that's it. Anyway, there are 6 of them on this side, on the left side, and they're growing.
And Sandy, how do you get those circles in there as well?
What circles, I drew them with many different compasses and with graphite, and they're like focal points to me. They're, kind of like tree cores, and then everything can grow off of that. So it's kind of, it just focuses on each one in my head. And the circles are wide or short, depending on just what I felt like doing, really. There's no logical connection, except it brings your eye into it.
It's very beautiful. It really brings it together and adds something to it.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun to do, actually. And that's like the beginning. It's kind of like grids or circles. You sort of start building the image. So that's like the primary layer. And then your watering is kind of the final layer, but one can continue watering as long as one wants to, really, and just let it dry and then water again. So that's also layers. And then next to that is the title of my show and my name. And that is Water, Seen and Unseen by Sandy Gellis. And the top image right there is of the Hudson River, which freezes over from time to time, especially even down in Manhattan. That photograph was taken just off Houston Street in Manhattan. So, and then birds kind of walk on the ice. It's kind of very beautiful. It breaks up quickly because the water in Manhattan is it ebbs and flows. It's tidal. So its movement is great. And if there's any rain that happens upland, like in the Adirondacks, by the time it flows down there, it's all different colors and all different mixes of mud and things like that. And just, so it's ever changing and sometimes really rough and sometimes just very smooth. It's very beautiful. Hudson's a beautiful wide river. Okay, so then on the other side of that wall is another, this row is of it's a fragment of a piece that I did recording the river for the entire month of May. And these are just a few that I pulled out, 6 again. So it's balanced with 6 on the right side, 6 on the left side. And in this one, I had found these scientific studies about the Hudson River, and I've done a lot of pieces based on that, but it talked about elements that you find in the river, like iron and copper and other things. So within these images are those elements mixed in, which I have powders of and things like that. So it was building a whole other bit of information. Plus, historically, they've been around a while, so they're starting to, the paper oxidizes and everything oxidizes, and it just kind of changes as time goes, even now, but they're more historical. But it's of the Hudson River rather than the waters up in Old Forge. The waters up in Old Forge are purer. The Hudson is a big accumulation of lots of things that kind of pour into it and contribute. So they're different bodies of water. These change. The lakes don't overflow that much up here, I don't think. But if they do, it's not constant. This is like every 8 hours. Tides come in, goes out, really. So it goes in and out a lot, and it's salty. So you have these salt accumulations too. If you look closely there, it's mixed with the water evaporates and salts start to accumulate. You get no salt accumulations in Old Forge. So this is an entrance to the room that I start talking about water and my experiences or my wanderings and wondering about water, Okay, so now you're looking at, on the left-hand side, there are 3 canvases that are glued to the wall, and they are sediments of 3 different rivers. The first one, I believe, I think that one is the river that runs in the backyard of View, and I never got the whole name of it. I kind of wrote it on the bottom, but in pencil, but you have to dip down a little. But that's just this river that I never got the right name. Somebody was supposed to tell me it, and I never quite got it, or I got it one that it might have been. So, but it's this beautiful sediment from that river that cuts through the yard, and I think there's an installation of birds in the trees in that area.
Yep, on our
pretty there.
wetland walkway. Some people might be familiar with it. It's a nice path that goes over the little river.
It's very beautiful there, yeah. So this is just it. It was a trickle when I initially saw it, and then it kind of filled up more by the time I got this sediment. Okay, and then the next one, I believe, is Old Forge Pond. This one's here, a whole other experience of sediment. Sediment is interesting because everything kind of sinks down into the sediment. And I know that because I had this piece where I was firing different earth um, firing different earth pieces, like little fragments of earth. And every time I fired a sediment fragment, the whole thing would kind of almost fall apart because of all of the fumes and everything that were kind of breaking into it. So it made me realize how fertile sediment is and how it accumulates everything that happens, and a lot of it just settles in and doesn't evaporate. So this is Old Forge Pond, and I believe the next one,
And the one before that was Whistle Creek.
Whistle Creek, was it? Is that what?
Yep.
Okay, I'd never heard that one. That's a nice title. Okay, I like that. Okay, and this one is Gray Lake. And the only thing I know about Gray Lake is, aside from kind of running around and collecting it with Susan Cox, was that there are loons in Great Lake. I happen to love loons. So this is my loon sediment. And then they're glued to the wall with wheat paste. So they're really flat against the wall. They look like they're kind of growing out of the wall. And they're just sitting there. So that's that group as you walk in on the left-hand side. Okay, so go back. Okay. This is an interesting piece. All right. For 9 years, I had found this glass, 1/4-inch glass, green glass, in a flea market. And there was a pile of them. They were very heavy. I took them home and I thought, okay, I want to glue very absorbent paper onto it and put one out a year. And I put it out on my ledge outside my window here in Manhattan. And I would leave it out for the whole year and then take it in. So everything rained on it, snowed on it, birds ate on it and walked on it. And, like all kinds of things happened to it. But I could never resolve it. I didn't know how to pull it together. So, but I accumulated them. I didn't throw them out. I just kind of saved them for 9 years. Okay. So then I decided, okay, I cannot toss them. I have to put them in a kiln. And Jane Bruce helped me do that. I said, Jane, what's going to happen? Can we try to do this? And if it falls apart, okay, but I have to do it and try to merge them together. And so I did, or we did. And it formed cracks, but it's very heavy and very solid anyway. And I was going to do this kintsugi painting with cracks, and I never quite dared to do it. One, because I kind of love it the way it is with its cracks, and the other is because I thought I needed a lot more time to kind of sort that out and see how that worked. Anyway, so it's this big dense mass that in the gallery, it's sitting on a pedestal, and it turns the most gorgeous colors depending on the light in the room. That's it. It's like a mass that you don't know what it is, really. Nobody knows what it is. It's really layers of paper and glass and everything accumulated in it for 9 years. Okay, so that then leads into these wall pieces that are right behind it and running down the wall. These are my years. Okay, so I went to a glass workshop in Pilchuck in Seattle, or near Seattle. And I kind of loved powdered glass. And then all of a sudden, it just occurred to me that will solve my glass problem of the 9 years where I couldn't resolve them. So I then decided to do powdered glass on glass. And these powders are different colors and different thicknesses and textures and things like that, and fire them as I wanted to. So I just put it out on my ledge, my same ledge, and just accumulated layers. Every now and then I would fire them depending on how much rain altered them. And every day I would look at them and think, okay, do I want to add more powder? Do I want to fire it, or do I want to just let it go? So this has been an enormous debate in my life for 7 years, 8 years actually, because I have one that I'm not showing right now. And there's just one a year. I know people have said, why don't you do a whole bunch in a year? Because I don't want to. And then I just decided that, are these neon pieces on right now? It doesn't look lit.
Travis, if you could check that they're on, that'd be great.
There they are. Yes, they're on now.
The
Okay,
gallery was closed, so I guess we had shut it down and
that's okay.
Yep.
Okay, but what I love about the neon, which I don't do neon normally, but I thought that it's the only thing that kind of sums the whole square up. Is this neon? You know, it says the year that it was made, and that's all you need to know. And the name. Okay, right. That I wrote down someplace because I keep forgetting it.
and all
Uh,
of these neons that Sandy did were they're all handwritten, rather than using like a typography, they're handwritten and
Yeah.
then bent
Yeah.
to that handwriting.
Exactly. And that was, I called up this person who is an expert in neon. And I had worked with him, just having him make glass tubes for a while, and or for a piece. And that one looks beautiful right now. Okay, and then I just said I wanted to just say the year. I wanted to be a half an inch high. And he said, I don't know whether I can do that. That's too small. And then I said, okay, try. And then so he did it just by sketching, like a little notebook and sketching in a notebook. And I thought that was all I wanted, was a sketch. I wanted it not to be so formal. I wanted it to be something that sort of just came together and was. And I've been thinking about this a lot, this whole piece. And up in, it's the first time that I've seen them all together, which I totally loved. Okay, so. All right, there we go. There's the wall, and each one is neon and krypton. And the gas, I wanted it to be a very bright white light, and called krypton. And krypton is like Superman, which also amuses me. So it makes me giggle every time I kind of think about it. But I really do love this neon. I love the shadows that it's making. I mean, they're kind of incredible. Yeah. So, and what I've been thinking about this piece is that it's a balance of control and no control, and trying to, it's very hard to do something, put it out there and keep your hands off of it and not manipulate it. Really harder than anybody can imagine, especially if you used to, manipulating and altering and doing things and making things like that. So the balance of rainfall and whatever else will happen, and the layers of powder and putting it in the kiln as when I feel like I should, has each one has to be decided in that way. And it occupies a lot of my time, those debates, but it's kind of an interesting thought. Okay, so I'm relating this now to, I heard this program on PBS yesterday, and they were talking about the fragile balance of the earth and the fragile balance of all objects in galaxies that are uh, terrestrial or and tertiary, or I don't know the word, but it's like they all have this similar base, or a lot of them, a good handful of them have similar bases, but they don't have water. And the water is the one thing that we have on Earth now, and it creates a very fragile dynamic for the whole Earth. And here I'm proselytizing, I think, but oh well. It really struck home when I was watching this program last night. And I thought, oh my God, that's what I'm doing. And they call it a very delicate balance. And then they're talking about the earth, and the delicate balance is water on earth. And if it dries out for one reason or another, then it's gone and we're gone. So it's kind of, I thought, am I doing this for this reason? And I might be, I don't know. I don't know exactly why I started doing this piece, but I can't stop. And then the other thing that happens when I put it in the gallery, except for this one, which broke, so that's closer to the wall, but the others are at least an inch or an inch and a half away from the wall. And at certain times of the light, they are translucent in parts, and these waves of colors dance in between the surface and the inside, just of the wall. And that totally blew my mind. It's like a whole other way to see the world, or this piece for sure. Anyway, so that's very exciting to me at the moment. This particular piece, I'm not going to tell the whole story on, but I thought, okay, I'm going to make it really thick in a really gravelly glass and just leave it and not do anything with it. And I didn't. And then I fired it, not properly, and it did not stick. It totally did not stick. And I fired it again and thinking it would stick. So I need to learn more of what I might want with this, because my manipulating or not manipulating is taking me to places that in foreign territory. I'm kind of in foreign territory right now. So that's basically what this is all about. It's about time. It's about water. It's about light. It's about a lot of things. And it's summed up by this neon, which one sees all over the place in New York City, about signs advertising for things, but I'm just advertising for time, So
I
it's
love that, Sandy. That's such a good way to put it.
Well, yeah, it's been an odd experience, because I do things without quite knowing why I do them. And I figure it out as I go along. And it's also contained by graphite on the wall, which also feels like a notebook and notations, rather than, a big concrete formal, well, this is it, and here is why. So it doesn't do that. And I don't want it to do that. I want it to be a vulnerable thought about water, about the earth, about life, about all of that stuff. So that's my my 7 years and counting and continuing. I need more information, though, I must say. But I
Sandy,
don't.
how did you first get started in glass?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Okay. I don't remember the decade, but it was about 30 years ago when I met Jane Bruce. I was invited to work at a glass workshop on Mulberry Street, which is now the glass workshop out in Brooklyn. But before it went to Brooklyn, it was just this very kind of loose shop on Mulberry Street. And there are all the people that I met there you know, focused on different things like neon, like kiln forming glass, like hot glass, just all of the different methods that anybody could do. There was somebody doing them. And so I decided that since I know nothing about glass, except it's intriguing and it scares me because I can cut myself all the time, so I decided to work with each person and build models. And the models ended up being studies for dump sites that I showed at the workshop after this was all done. And so that's how that was my introduction to glass and all the possible directions one can go with it. And so my building models just helped me, focus on an idea, building an idea, and learning how to use these materials very superficially. So that's how I started. And I did it for 6 weeks, if not
Well,
more. Is that?
yeah, that's great to know. It was, I guess I myself wondered, and I thought other people would find that interesting to know. As you use glass sometimes and sometimes you don't, so.
Exactly. I find that glass is too confining in certain ways. I feel kind of constricted by it, and I don't exactly know why. And I've worked for so many years building pieces in other ways that I like to just dive in sometime and build a large piece in various segments and things like that. And glass, I guess one can do that, but it's too restricting for me. I might change my mind someday, I don't know. But every now and then it has to solve a problem that I can't solve in any other way except by doing glass. And I like that. And it's a magical material, I think. It's
Very much is, yes.
yeah, it really is. It's kind of amazing. So I don't want to stop doing things with it. And I don't want to get myself bogged down in how to do everything properly and clinically, because that also weighs me down. So every time I want to do something in glass, I have to learn a whole new way to do it and, figure that out, and then how to hang it. And, it becomes a whole thing. So that's my glass.
It is a beast in its own self.
And it's expensive.
Yes, very much.
Oh, so that too, it's just, except I and Jane and Jane Bruce, Susan Cox, we were invited to work at Bullseye in Mamaroneck for 3 months and work with half price on their glass and just use what we wanted to, and lots of kilns, and it was great because I had lots of ideas that I had kind of constructed in different ways that I then started to execute on large scale glass. And that was the first time that I really started to work in a larger scale other than little nuggets or little models and things like that. So that set me off in a whole other pattern and direction, which I don't have anything in this show of that time, but they're kind of wonderful and big and beautiful. So you'll see some of them. In fact, you can see some of them when I just completed a website, sandygellis.com. In my website, you will see a wider range of what I have than what I have in this gallery, this beautiful gallery to show anything in, really. But if you turn around the wall to that little, the photographs are all of the Hudson River. And this particular photograph was, I spent a lot of time on a houseboat that didn't go anywhere. It just sat in the river. Like it was like a room on the river. And it's great. So I would just go up to Kingston. It was in Kingston, New York. And I would sit and watch the water on the front deck and read and watch the water and photograph the water, so it was one of my ways to photograph a lot of the water. And this particular image was just of that spot, which I kind of love this photograph for that reason. But the other water that you see, this water is of the Hudson River as it's flowing in all of its drama and dynamism. It's a very powerful river, and I guess all rivers are, and they flow depending on everything: the wind, the rain, the tides, the weather, everything. So they're totally full of life. And so they're just scattered around the gallery and in different positions on the wall, high on the wall, low on the wall, just kind of there and present, and just kind of activating the space as water does. So, okay, so if you go around the corner here, before you get there, there's a vitrine that it's in the corner. Travis, someplace.
I think
Okay.
he's probably moving over there.
Okay. Well, I can talk about this guy. This is a hope. Okay. No, that's another Hudson River water piece. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having you jump around a bit now. I promised I wouldn't do that. Oh, well. Okay, I'll talk about this guy. This is time tracings. This is it's kind of like a collage. And the center image, this gray, that you can't see the delicacy of it in this picture right now, but I found it. It's a NASA image of Siberia. And it's a part of Siberia that doesn't have any development. It has rivers it has a little community living there, but it's like way up near the Arctic Circle. And it looked like a great engraving that anybody could have made, like in the 1800s or the 1500s, or it was just such a gorgeous image that I saw it and I pulled it off the internet and I thought I have to do something with it because I love it. And it talked about water and flowing and everything. Anyway, so these squares that circle it are digital images called collagraphs. And collagraphs are, again, I mean, it's funny, and I didn't really realize it, but they're sand, different textures of sand swirling. I wanted it to feel like water running and swirling and things like that. And so they, but the textures were too flat. I wanted to do a 3-dimensional print of it, but it was there was really no depth to it because they were very subtle and flat. And so I just built these drawings, which were great fun to do. They were very much like my sediment drawings, which I didn't really think about at the time, but they're different than the sediment drawings, but they're part of that anyway. So I wanted to do just continuations of flows in the original print of Siberia. And then there are these little panels in there that are images that I didn't quite know what they were. When I was taking a plane ride to the Kathy Keene, who I collaborated with to do this, she kind of mounted it and pulled it all together. And it's a map. I see it as a map, and it folds into parts, and this is it unfolded in its glory. And so while I was going out to Portland, Oregon, where she lived, and worked to work with her for a couple of days. I passed this mountain range and I could not define what I was looking at all, except there were like these little cracks that were filled and they were making the most gorgeous shapes. And I loved them. So I took a lot of photographs of them. And then I ended up doing lino, cutting into linoleum with them. And they're kind of embedded in this print, but they're not really visible. They're only, they're very subtle. They're there, they're very subtle. I don't know where they are or what they're of, but they're kind of floating in the space, and it's like fragments of mountain ranges that are kind of floating in that space as well. So it's just an odd 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional map that took 6 years to do, and kind of traced time in my life and Kathy's life, so it's just time tracing. It's about time. And so the water in this print is also about time and water. So that's what this print is about. It's amazing, amazing. And Kathy was having a hard time. There. Okay, now that looks similar, but it's not. This is an etching project that is on the big wall that when we circle around, you'll see. And it's just etchings. And I, for 1 year, put a plate out every day and coated it with a water soluble ground, which meant that if rain hit it, it would leave an impression. If it was a lot of rain, it would get very dark, like these dark places. And if it was barely any rain, it would just make little marks. Each plate, I also wrote the date that it was made and the number of times it rained on that day in 117-year history that is here. So it's recording the rain for a year, and there it is. Yeah. So it rained 41 times on that day in the last 117 years. And that was in 1987. So it's an old piece. What's interesting about this piece, and you'll see it on the wall, I put the plate up on the wall as well as the etchings in this vitrine. And because the plates are very physical and very beautiful. And I wanted the plates to be, although many prints are made with copper felt too beautiful to me. I wanted it to be kind of down home. Here it is. That's New York City rainfall. And it's a map. The top row is January and it goes down to December. The bottom row is December. And it covers 31 days going left to right. And the plates only exist on the day that it rained. And then the prints only exist on the days that it rained. So it's documenting the pattern of rain in a particular place for one whole year. What I would love to do if I had another life somehow, and that's all I wanted to do, would be to go around to different places and just record it, because the rainfall is a different pattern. There are duplicates, but it's really a different pattern and a different amount of rain, a different power of just impacting on whatever. And so I'd love to see different patterns and do a similar project, but it's totally time consuming and I can't do it, and I can't do it alone because I was working with a master printer and we spent the whole year doing it. That's it. And even during the year, I had gotten ill And there was some chance that I would have to go into the hospital for a week. So I didn't know what to do. Here I am with my plates and, I can't put them out. So I prepared my plates and I had them all ready for somebody to lay them out and then take them in. And each plate would only stay exposed for 24-hour period of that day and then pull it in. And then it was etched and then it was printed, so and they look like my time tracings. They look like a lot of things that I do in different ways. So this form is just kind of reacting with water and nature and life and all of that. Anyway, so this is New York City rainfall. And that what you see, it's oxidizing a bit. Not only are they full of impressions of water, but they continue to oxidize. I've waxed them a bit just to slow down the oxidation on them. And their brass is throwaway, brass is not an exquisite copper, but I think brass is beautiful. So I kind of insisted on doing with brass at the time.
So Sandy, somebody's asked a question for you.
Okay.
They have said, have you had a relationship reflecting on the Hudson River for a long time? Have you traveled to the source of the Hudson at the lake tier of the clouds?
I haven't traveled there, but I've had maps that shown there. And no, but in your library, in your sale, I had done a project with Margot McLean at Florence, Italy. Yeah, I think it's in that. That's right. That's the catalog. And within the catalog, we showed in this old natural history museum, which was fabulous and wonderful. And I dealt with water, with the Arno River. And I had people send me stories about the Arno River. And that is what this catalog is full of, stories that are in Italian and English. And there's also a conversation about rivers. And in the conversation about rivers, James Hillman and Ed Casey, philosopher and Jungian therapist, they had dinner with Margot and I recorded the entire dinner conversation. And they went into talking about the beginnings of the river and talking about it in a non-romantic way. They were talking about it in a very, very it was not indulgent, it was not romantic. It was just like, what's it like to hike all the way up to the beginning of where the river starts, and what do you run into with those issues and stuff like that. So it was a reality experience with it. Anyway, so it's in that catalog, is why I'm bringing up the catalog. The whole conversation is in the catalog, and then everybody's experience of the river is also in the catalog. So it's really interesting to do. The Arno River in Italy, Florence, flooded, and a big flood, and affected a lot of people's lives. And I had these big glass jars that were specimen jars that were in the museum, and in a storage area that gorgeous gigantic jars were just there, kind of being dusty and falling apart and breaking. And I just pulled a whole bunch of them out and used them in my exhibition, and took the words of these people and the water from the Arno and filled the jars with them. So that was kind of exciting. The light is doing really weird things on these plates. They're not so shocking, that they're more subtle.
Mhm.
But,
So
so,
I'll open up just to let anyone know if you have any more questions. This is the time to enter them in as well.
okay,
Yeah.
let's see. Anybody want to know? Have any questions? I'd be happy to try to talk about it. But the fact that every place has different amounts of rainfall and different rain, like in Arizona, how much does it rain in Arizona as opposed to New York City, as opposed to the Adirondacks? Every place rains in different amounts. Some just would have the whole space of plates that were occupied, and some would have barely any. So I kind of love the idea of patterns of different places and different rainfalls. If I could figure out how to do it, but this seems like such a perfect way to do it, but it's too time consuming. Couldn't do it.
I have another question for you.
Okay.
What inspired you to start archiving the environment through your work?
Okay, that's a hard question because I lived in a basement. And although I never quite understood color, but I had this big fat pipe that was probably a drainage pipe for, toilets and things like that, and it oxidized. So that this big 6-inch round pipe was in my studio, which was, very low ceilings, kind of. It was when I did my biggest work. And it was the smallest space I was in. And I would scrape the pipe down and use the iron from the pipe to make color and put it in paintings and things like that. So I wanted to make my color, or I wanted my color to come from some authentic place rather than me just impose colors for different reasons. So forever, I mean, really forever. When I was a little girl, I would sit at my kitchen window, and my next door neighbor, Abby, a little redheaded kid who was my neighbor. I don't know him at all anymore. I don't even know if he's alive. But anyway, so I would sit at the window on a rainy day with Abby, and we would watch the rain. And we would try to say what color the next car is that's coming. This is in the Bronx. So I'm not in the country. I'm in this, concrete world, but has a roof. So I was always exposed to rain. I was always exposed to the roof and the stars and birds and things like that. That they had pigeon coops on the roof and things. So my experience as a young girl kind of continues in some weird ways, but I feel like I've been kind of investigating things that are similar my whole life, and just finding different ways to talk about them that seem a little clearer to me, or a lot clearer to me. I just do it. I think there are more people.
Yep, there's a couple comments rather than questions. One
Okay.
person said, I love your continued relationship with water, falling down and flowing, and the way it varies throughout the world. And then the next comment was, the delight of seeing the glass with the sediment. So many of the pieces are what remains when the water is gone, but the glass evokes the water and adds a sense of the source of the swirls. And I think that I do love the glass pieces for that reason. And almost you get the reflections of what water is like through that glass, and that I have been watching that bouncing of the light in the gallery.
I find that mind blowing. Really, I didn't expect that to happen. But it's the light in that room. The room is so full of light in a way that I didn't anticipate at all. And it just kind of, it makes it look like, streams, watching water and doing all of that in the room all by itself. So that I find very, very exciting. And I don't quite know what I want to do with it, but I know I want to do more with it. It's like
Yeah.
a wonderful thing. Yeah. It's really,
The whole room as a whole looks lovely, Sandy.
thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I actually feel I love it too. I really,
Great.
yeah, I'm surprised at how much I did, because when I first saw the room, I had seen it before, but I didn't think about it. And then I walked into the room, I said, oh my God, this room is so small. But then when I started kind of putting things in it and working it, it became very big and very kind of universal in some way, which
Mhm.
is nice when that happens. Yeah,
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sandy, for being here and for giving us insights. It's always good to know the inside of what you're seeing in the gallery, and I hope people can come to visit because it, particularly New York City rainfall, has a huge impact when you're standing in front of it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's
and I'd also like to say, that this whole idea of keeping watering those prints in the front room has been really interesting to watch as they've changed, because I'm spending every day with them.
right.
Yeah.
Spraying them with water that are in little, the containers should have been bigger, but I didn't get bigger containers because I didn't know how it was going to work. So, it's a big experiment what I do.
Yeah. A lot of your practice seems very experimental, but it comes out to be very beautiful, so,
Yeah, it's
and
exciting.
thoughtful.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Nice.
We do have another artist talk next week with our other juror, our juror of selection and Diggory, and that'll be at the same time at 7 p.m. So if you loved hearing about Sandy's work, you can now hear about the other juror. It'll be another good insight into kind of seeing what the jurors' own work is like and maybe how it influences what they choose. And you can also tune back in to their talk that we held last week, which was a nice insight as well, where they talked about the selection and the awards.
Mhm. It was an interesting process to do that, by the way,
Yeah.
for me. Mhm.
Oh, I'm glad. It's something a little different than sitting in the studio.
Totally, totally. It's like everybody's different worlds kind of coming in on your computer,
Yeah.
and then you have to start sorting it out. Not so easy, but fun. Anyway, so thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sandy. And I hope everyone has a good night. And I'll see you in a few weeks, Sandy.
Great. Yes, you will. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.